Welcome to Slow News Day live on Sunday. My name is Steve Boykin, and I am here in locked down Boulder Creek, California. Um, it is, I guess, officially day 3 of Don't Leave Your Fucking House. I am joined this morning by just one hell of a broadcaster. The last time he was on the show, I just realized this was like the first time we had any information about this coronavirus. This is going to be a hell of a conversation. Please welcome back to Slow News Day, Craig Pasta Jardula. How are you doing, my brother?
Great, Mr. Poikinen. Great to have. Thank you very much for having me back on. It's great to be on, buddy.
This is the audience made this possible because they do let me know in the chat who they would like to see back on the show, and your name kept coming up. So all of the credit goes to them, even though I was very pleased with how the last show went. We've got a lot to talk about on this fucking crazy ass Sunday. And first things first, because we were just talking about this off camera. You co-host the Convo Couch with Fiorella, and you guys, I've said this many times before. You guys have done the best and most honest primary coverage out of anybody, like far and away, hands down.
Thank you, man.
I've got a lot of respect for the integrity that you brought to your broadcast, like straight up.
Thank you.
And you called a spade when you saw it. Just the other day, Tulsi Gabbard drops out of the race, throws her support behind Joe Biden, and you and Fee didn't hesitate to call it like it is. You want to go into that a little bit, get that out of the way?
Yeah, we might as well get that out of the way. I mean, obviously, I'm not going to support the Congresswoman's support of Joe Biden, so I'm going to step out of that. I think at the end of the day, it's you're going to see Bernie Sanders do the same thing eventually. We're just waiting right now, and you're a fool to think not. To think that he's going to go to the convention, and even if he did go to the convention, a little is lost too late by Mr. Sanders. I'm upset with the Congresswoman, but still kind of deeply upset with also Bernie Sanders, who's supposedly the leader of the movement, not caressing and coalescing all the progressives behind him the way the establishment did to him. Tulsi Gabbard did say at the end she's going to support the nominee. That nominee will be Joe Biden. It is a hard pill to swallow. But I think in the long run, it's going to come down to whether or not people want to forgive her or not, for what she did. It sucks that in this climate, once again, and, the biggest sin of Tulsi Gabbard and Bernie Sanders is that they don't think they can run third party. They feel that in the political climate, it's impossible to run third party. So even with something as just in your face as the warmonger that Joe Biden is, the regime change aficionado, Ukraine, Joe Biden is going to be the nominee. Tulsi had to support him, I guess. I mean, I think we were all hoping that she said no and endorsed nobody, but she's not going to hold any punches back. She's not going to play any games, and unfortunate for her, I will not help her and support her in that one. I think that Donald Trump is better than Joe Biden, and I'm not going to vote for Donald Trump, but I'm sure as hell I'm going to vote for Joe Biden. So.
Yeah, I agree with that. I do, and I've been on the side of professional politicians are going to do what professional politicians are going to do, and I have always told the people who watch this show, no gods, no masters. Don't put your faith in a politician. Put your faith in truth tellers. Put your faith in whistleblowers and publishers like Julian Assange. And don't be surprised when your second favorite Council on Foreign Relations member does a hard right turn. Your first, I guarantee, everybody's first favorite Council on Foreign Relations member, whether you know it or not, is Dennis Kucinich. And mentor to Tulsi Gabbard, by the way.
Yeah.
But as far as a third party goes, Bernie Sanders had 4 years, Pasta, to build up the infrastructure for a legitimate third party run that would have just demolished all of the lies about the need for a duopoly. And instead, he pushed Russiagate. He went on Jake Tapper or Chris Cuomo's show or Chris Cillizza. I can't remember the exact monkey that was, interviewing him in 2018, right before the midterms, and just screamed about, don't vote third party, don't run third party as the independent senator from Vermont. You know, um, Bernie, I am convinced that his hip hop name is Sheep Doggy Dog, and that it's ultimately his job to make people believe that you can have a revolution at the ballot box.
Yeah, I mean it's hard to argue at this point right now. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. There's something inside me that, when it comes to Tulsi, it comes to Bernie, I want to believe that they all meant well. I have friends who are like, oh, he's been sheepdogging people into the Democratic Party since the day in 2016. And there's so many events that happened to lead up to why we are where we're at right now. And the fact is he's still in the race right now, but I'm not going to, harp on it. It's a tough pill to swallow. It's something hard to understand. I mean, Bernie Sanders is going to make this move again. And believe you me, I had all those people, Steve. Tulsi dropped out and supported Joe Biden. I got all the texts from the Bernie haters that hated Tulsi and whatnot. I'm not going to see any joy seeing Bernie Sanders do the same thing. It's going to be a sad day because now we're left with, once again, the same two shit choices that are shoved down our throat. And believe you me, you're an Assange guy. And I'm an election integrity activist over here. Like I said, we're hovering around the First Amendment, and to see what just happened over here, and to see Bernie Sanders just complicit on it, and really that's it, just complicit on the rigging. Nobody has called out the rigging that's been going on because they don't want to look like a sore loser, and it's just right in your face. You don't even have to be a private eye detective to see it. It's just, if you pay attention, it's there. So the fact that we're going to go through this choice, and once again, you spend all this time trying to be a good socialist, why don't you spend some time trying to protect democracy and call out these riggings? Because you had all the information. WikiLeaks gave you everything. And instead of shutting Julian Assange, you should be praising him for telling the American people the truth and giving you the ammunition you need to take down the establishment. He didn't do it. This is where we're at. He's still not doing it. Oh, well.
That's 100% correct. And we know from WikiLeaks specifically that both in the Podesta emails and the DNC emails, nothing that came out in those was written past March 22nd. That was the cutoff date. We know, or May 22nd. We know that as early as the beginning of May, Bernie Sanders was aware that he was not going to be the nominee. He was aware that he was going to be endorsing Hillary Clinton. And in fact, Robbie Mook was writing emails to Bernie supporters telling them, don't freak out at the convention, don't get rowdy, just do what we say and support the nominee and whatnot. Like I don't want to call it an outright scam, but it really looks like an outright scam because he was still fundraising. What you saw immediately after Don't Go Ape at the convention was, and donate, give us money.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
it's hard for me to, and I will probably get called a purist for this or whatever by my Bernie friends, and I still have Bernie friends. But it's hard for me to reconcile selling your supporters on, supporting Hillary Clinton while still asking your supporters to donate to the Bernie Sanders campaign.
Yeah. Listen, that's a hard one. I understand that, and I think he's doing that now as well, too. But there's a lot of people on the lower levels that got to get paid right now. We're about to head into Corona craziness, right? We're about to hit that next phase of it. Everybody's hunkering down, I guess. So, I think he wanted to get some people his checks last time and some people their checks this time. I still believe, and I guess maybe hit me in the head again, that Bernie Sanders still was doing stuff within good faith and thought he can buck the system. But unfortunately, the people close to him, which we haven't even touched about, in his campaign, people from the Center for American Progress have really derailed his whole campaign, because we could sit here and say, okay, the machines are rigged. That's bullshit. We know that's going on. We have to call that out. We have to fix our whole election system. It's ridiculous. We have, private, closed proprietary software in every single one of our states and every single one of our machines. People go, oh, you can't prove to me that it's rigged. I'm like, well, you can't prove to me it's not rigged. You know why? Because me or you or anybody else can't even get a subpoena to look inside. So, I mean, we have that situation. But then there's the Bernie Sanders who has to take credit, or take responsibility, for the mistakes he's made. You know what I'm saying? And, the biggest mistake is not forming a coalition. And I'm not just talking about Tulsi Gabbard. I'm talking about Andrew Yang, Tom Steyer, all these people. He had to be ready. I don't know where Elizabeth Warren is. I think she was always floating in no man's land. She doesn't know where she's at. She doesn't know where she belongs. But that there was no coalition, and also the attitude and the message of the campaign. It was turned into very identity politics, racial justice, all this other stuff, where he really pounded the class warfare last time. And I think when you pound the class warfare, you start realizing, okay, everybody's got a job. It doesn't make a difference what color of skin we have. We're all in this together. We can get this. But his message was still more towards the centrist, more towards the social justice warrior. He went that route, and then the Russia gating, the Russia baiting, it just led him awry, where there's a lot of people who just said, you know what? Hey, man, I'm sorry. I'm not for this right now, the way I was back in 4 years ago, and dipped out. So you just had this whole situation like CIA, 9 different tactics they're using at you. You'll catch up to 2 or 3 of them, but 4 or 5 of them are going to slip through. And they did. And they damaged Bernie Sanders hardcore. And now we're left with what we're left with, which is.
That's undeniable. It is. I got kicked off of a live stream the other night. Because I did. It was the first time it ever happened.
You got the boot?
I did. I got the hard exit. And it was because I was asking questions about what you and I are talking about right now. And the premise of the show was, this is, Bernie Sanders fan fiction, and we're not going to let reality enter into a good narrative. And so I was asking these questions, and I was talking about this, and I think one of the last things that got me booted, that I said was, look, Bernie stopped. He pivoted before he kicked off his campaign. Like he had these 3 years, really, 2016 to 2019, before he announced, where he was ratcheting up class solidarity, ratcheting up worker solidarity, not hitting the SJW shit. And before he even announced, he pivoted, and he was running a campaign, it seemed to me, not to win the nomination, but to maybe nudge the conversation just a little bit more to the left. And if that's all you're doing with your presidential campaign, you need to be clear about that, because $36 million he raised last month, Pasta. $36 million. And what did that get the people?
Nothing. It got a bigger defeat than Hillary Clinton. Now, once again, I'm gonna always question the integrity of these elections, knowing what we're going through. He had the chance back in 2016 to go after this, and this is where we lost everything. It was like, I can pinpoint the date, is the date in that courtroom when those lawyers said, DNC lawyers, that, hey, man, we can go in the back room, fill with cigar smoke, and pick whoever we want. Right then and there, that's where he should have held the line. He should have brought national attention to that, because that was him getting cheated. They were talking about him. He was the one who got cheated. So he had an obligation and a duty to really call out this rigging, really call out the system. I've even been a little bit critical of Tulsi Gabbard, who's the only one who has a decent bill. But that bill is just an ideology right now. We got to build upon that bill, and we got to really fix our elections. And I don't know if he, was oblivious to this whole situation, but thinking he can go in and just overpower the system, No. And especially with the pivot. And that's what we talk about, Steve. That pivot really deterred him from doing what Trump did. And that was like the mass amount of support, because a lot of people were just like, and not to say, listen, those SJW people are my friends. I got a lot of them. I started in this whole thing with them.
Yeah.
I know who they are. I love them. But I'm sorry. It's like, what I'm saying? That shit can be very, very divisive at times. You know what I'm saying? You're actually going to, point finger at people because of their religion, their race, their masculinity, or their sexuality. And it just could be divisive. Where we all come together is the thing he was beaten back in 2016 is like, hey, man, we all need money. We all need a job. We all need to protect our First Amendment rights. We need to do all this shit. Let's do this together. He got away from that, and it cost him dearly.
And I think that you're exactly right when you point to the people that he surrounded himself with in his campaign. His foreign policy advisor, just absolute garbage.
Terrible.
Yeah. Faiz, absolute garbage.
Yep. Yeah.
And even Ro Khanna. My favorite quote about Ro Khanna comes from a book called The Four, and it's about the four giant tech monopolies. And the quote is, Ro Khanna is a smart man. Ro Khanna is a thoughtful man, but he's not a member of Congress. That seat belongs to the lobby we call big tech. So Ro Khanna is going to do what big tech tells him to do, because not only is he one of the wealthiest member of Congress, his bread is buttered by big tech. So if it behooves big tech to have rigged voting machines, if it behooves big tech to not have a conversation about election integrity, not have a conversation about worker solidarity, because big tech is the last place that you'll see a union. Then they're going to encourage, their placeholder, Ro Khanna, to steer the issue as wide away from that as humanly possible. And Ro consistently does that.
And that once again, here it is. That's a huge mistake. I think I was waiting for Bernie to get more nuanced this time, right? So what are the things I want him to look at? A lot of Tulsi Gabbard people, they're, 1/3 of the Tulsi Gabbard people are regime change wars. They're like, all right, we want to eliminate regime change war. Another third is election integrity. Talk about her. I almost have my middle finger up. They almost talk about, her securing American Elections Act. Okay. And the other third is, hey, we got to protect our civil liberties. What you're doing to Google, thank you. You're making a statement here because you're bringing attention to what they do. Bernie Sanders never went near any of that stuff whatsoever. You know what I'm saying? He didn't talk about suppression online. He didn't talk about people getting blacklisted and what we are going through right now. You know what I'm saying? It's like what we're going through is totally disgusting. They're suppressing our voices. They're suppressing, and they'll financially suppress you and try to squeeze you out. Well, there was none of that talk from Bernie Sanders. That's why I always thought that Tulsi was kind of rallying up another side of people that he's not talking to bring along. But once again, there goes Bernie Sanders listening to those guys up top, those Matt Duss, those guys who come from Center for American Progress. And not only that, Jeff Weaver and Chuck Rocha, they ain't the best at all either, too, as well. I mean, really, besides Dr. Cornel West, Nina Turner, I think Breanne's pretty cool, Breanne Joy Gray. But other than that, it's like he surrounded himself with just the wrong people. And Bernie Sanders is going to be sitting in a chair. And that's why I said right now at this point, like, guys, don't get so mad at Bernie Sanders and Tulsi Gabbard. Let them work it out. They'll talk. They'll work it out. I think that proves that we shouldn't idolize politicians. Like you said, Steve, we got to take care of our own shit now as well. But let them work out their stuff, because he's going to have a lot of time sitting down thinking about, shit, what the hell did I do wrong? Well, pal, you did a lot of things wrong. Your message went awry. You didn't take on certain issues that you needed to take on head on, like election integrity, like, civil liberties being suppressed. And you had to take those things on. You had to get better at national security, and you had to build bridges. You did none of it. And now you're out in the cold, and all your SJ Dubs are with you with no place to go.
And it's hard to look at it as an unforced error when the unforced errors all go one direction. You know, I got fucking hammered by Jamal Thomas for this. This is the last thing I said before I got booted off of that live stream this week, was if the mistakes go all one way, are they really mistakes? And like, that was enough. That was it. That was fucking, I can't believe you're saying this on my show. You're gone.
Well,
and it's
a lot of people say that, Steve. A lot of people say that, and you know what I'm saying. If you listen, I'm not going to hold it against you for feeling that way, using the sheep herding term, because I have my friend said that same thing. I feel differently. I still felt he could have. He was in a good. He has a good heart. He was in a good state of mind. It was way too overwhelming. Went the wrong direction. Who knows? Maybe he did get threatened, because everything seemed to change in 2016 after the convention. So who knows? I don't know.
I mean, I've long held the belief that Bernie knows he was cheated, knew about the DNC fraud lawsuit, had to have known about the DNC fraud lawsuit, and that. I said this about Hillary Clinton's campaign. If you were running a campaign with the goal being win the election, they ran the worst fucking campaign I've ever seen in my entire life. Bernie Sanders ran that campaign in 2020. He was not running to win an election. And if that's your, like, if all you're trying to do is make a political statement, get a fucking YouTube show. You know, like, don't break in hundreds of millions of dollars from people who are literally going, you know, living in their cars, because instead of paying rent in a place, they're giving to a campaign. Don't sell people on what is essentially hope and change if all you're going to give them is a half-ass concession speech.
Yeah, you know, it's just putting the cart before the horse in every single situation. You know what I'm saying? Like, I always believed, and I always thought Bernie Sanders' message is like, hey, man, we're going to fix things class-wise, and that's going to straighten out a lot of the, you know, racial issues and the gender issues and stuff. In other words, a lot of these issues come because, like, hey, man, you're getting starved out, so you're going to start blaming the guy across the street because you have a lack of resources. You know, you're getting suppressed from resources. But if we can open the floodgates out there, give people money, give them education, give them a fair living, give them a nice life for everybody, that's going to naturally bring people together. He got away from that, and, you know, he just got into, we're going to go in there and change people's thoughts. We're going to go in there and change people's minds. We're going to make them be nice. You know, we're going to end racial justice. And so, you know, it's like, listen, the way you end that is through class. That's the first start. You want to have less unborn babies? You want to have less abortions in America? Well, pump up education in a good market, a good work market, okay, a good job force, and you're going to have people who empower themselves more, and you're going to have less, you know, unwanted abortions. So it's like these things fix the other. They're the natural way of fixing the things. Giving people money, resources, education, state of mind, letting them relax. That lets them do so much more than when they're stressed out, got to work 2 jobs, whatnot. And it's like now they can't even pay attention to what's going on. So I'm sorry if I'm all over the place. The coffee's kicking in.
No, man, no. That's if there's one thing this show is not famous for, it's a strict format.
There you go.
I mean, shit, my head's all over the place as it is. I'm watching Donald Trump slow roll National Socialism, like straight up 1930s German style. You know, we're going to nationalize sectors of industry. We'll cut you a check. While we're killing end-to-end encryption for private citizens, while we're reauthorizing the Patriot Act, while we're going to grant emergency powers of indefinite detention to the Justice Department, while we have public disclosure organizations and leaktivists listed as terrorists in the 2020 NDAA. While we have, you know, precedents from the 2011 and 2012 NDAA saying that you can, as long as it falls under the rubric of terrorism, you can indefinitely detain U.S. citizens. Now we're going to do it for people violating a virus curfew, a virus that it is getting harder and harder to deny that it's man-made, it's getting harder and harder to deny that it may have been created stateside and gone to China, whether it was stolen for study or whether it was released maliciously. Like, it's getting really fucking savage really quick. And we've got millions of fucking just fear-driven Americans who are convinced that the only way that this virus works is through your butthole, so they fucking hoard toilet paper or, you know, hand sanitizer to the point to where it's peeling skin off of hands. The reaction is typical in that the intelligence communities have something they call problem reaction solution. You create a problem for a specific reaction, and then you step in with a solution. And the solution now seems to be the slow rollout of National Socialism, the loss of individual autonomy. Our location data is going to be sent to law enforcement to see if we're violating a stay-at-home order. We've got travel permits being issued in Santa Cruz County now. I went to lunch on Friday. I went to Safeway. Sheriff's Department was there. They're handing out pieces of paper to the people who work at Safeway. Put these in your front windshield so you don't get pulled over come next week, because your job is essential, and we're going to have to start ticketing and or arresting people for violating the stay-at-home order. Do you have that nowhere? Are you seeing that down there yet?
I haven't gone out myself. I'm like 47, so you know, and I'll be honest with you, Steve, while we're here on the live stream, I'm enjoying this fucking quarantine, kind of hanging inside. You know, just like watching a lot of news, while having fun with it. I'm cooking a lot of food. I made some gnocchi the other day, some pasta. I mean, listen, it's I don't know, it's crazy, and it's people. Somebody asked me that like the other day in a chat. They're like, well, I heard that this is a man-made disease and it's a virus and it's come from the States, from Canada, possibly, or you know whatnot. And somebody's like, well, man, where'd you hear that? I'm like, slow news day. Steve Poikonen. We got to watch the right people. You watch the Burmeses, you watch the Jackson Facts. You guys were on top of this stuff, and you guys were on top of this stuff early. And it's kind of good when you watch your show because you bring a different perspective about what's going on. You know, we see all these pictures of martial law, them starting to track people and stuff. Everything that the neocons would say about China is happening over here. You know what I'm saying? It's like crazy. So, I mean, I'm up in the air for everything. I don't know. It's a scary time in a way to see how this plays out. But, you know, I'm just hoping for the best, expecting the worst, and cooking and eating while I can, and putting that toilet paper up my butt so this virus don't come get me.
Right. Who knew that quilted northern was the antiviral we all needed? You just gotta fucking, you know, knit yourself a butt plug and get it up in there, and then hope for the best. Please don't do that, please.
Well, I use the Cottonelle with the aloe, so it's not as painful. So
okay. Hey, you know, I mean,
if you can find it.
I was joking with somebody that a great online business right now was going to be fucking like Astroglide, you know? Like people are going to want that product by the time this is all. There's going to be some seriously chapped asses.
How did they kick you off that stream? Why would they do something like that? Astroglide? What assholes?
Look, man, if you can't keep your sense of humor, they fucking win. And I'm really not worried about. I'm not worried about swearing because these videos get demonetized before I even go live. Yeah. I did right before we went on. I got a call from friend of the show and my personal friend Sam Tripoli. He invited me to start posting content on his site, Broken Simulation. So I'm going to do that as an alternative platform. Sammy is one of those guys that like I personally have to watch to keep my head. you know. And Burmis is the same way. I
I
talked to
like
Burmis.
Burmis too as well. I want to talk with Burmis. Everybody I want to talk to is a bunch of white guys, and it's just like a bunch of white guys on film over here. But Burmis is Burmis guy. I like his stuff too as well. You know, that's another guy, independent thinker. I'm glad he's on the Rockfin with all of us. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, me too. I'm looking to get over to Rockfin too. I've been talking to Nico about that since like October of last year, and just got incredibly busy. And then we went to DC and we did our week of events there, and then we got on the plane right when they were like, "Hey, you shouldn't be getting on a plane anymore." And almost immediately, we got back the 28th or 29th, and almost immediately we went into just massive chaos.
Yeah.
I don't know if you got a chance to see the WikiLeaks flag that we brought with us that we were having people sign. But every time we did an event, we had a WikiLeaks flag, and like Medea Benjamin signed it, Lee Camp signed it. And at the same time, we got Michael Flynn fucking Jr. to sign it. Cassandra Fairbanks signed it. Who else? Enrique Tarrio, who's the national organizer for the Proud Boys, signed it. And what it really represents is a post-partisan conversation. Like, we can all agree that we need free, open source, primary source information in order to make an informed decision. We have a conversation about policies, about ideology all day long. As soon as we both agree that our right to not be propagandized is protected. And that is one of the scariest things that you can put in the face of the establishment, Pasta, that you're not buying into their red team, blue team manufactured confusion shit.
Yeah, it's scary times too, man. I just was gonna say that's, ditto. I mean, we got to have these conversations, and you guys have done such a great job. It's so funny because it's like we dove into all this stuff at the same time. I remember we were going to New Hampshire to cover the primary out there, and we saw you guys going out to DC and all this stuff, and it was just nutty times. Everything was just jammed into like these several couple months. And hey, man, the job that Taylor did in London, when you guys were all in DC, seeing Jason hang with you guys, seeing Dak out there with you guys, man, you guys, I was able to peek at your stuff, and you believe it or not, I wasn't looking at a lot of people's stuff, but being that we're all kind of that same kind of genre and family, I was peeking at what you guys were doing, and yeah, man, some great work, but it's still scary. Like, where do we go from here? You know what I'm saying? Because you see those pictures of the trucks and the tanks going down in San Diego. It's like, what's really going to happen? Are we really going to have a quarantine? Is the quarantine really about the virus, or is it really about control?
And I think
hear what Andrew said the other day was encouraging. Like, well, listen, you got to kind of get like this decentralized mindset. You got to stop. You got to plug away from these people and do your own thing. And I'm ready for that. And I always said, if there's a zombie apocalypse, I'm going to live because I can cook. I can be that guy. So, but I am curious about where we're going with this and what's going to happen after this. Are we going to go back to our normal lives? You know what I'm saying? Is this a situation where it's like an FDR type of give out, where FDR and his brother realized, hey, man, we got to give some money to the people. Otherwise, they're going to fucking eat us. And I heard, the other day, Dylan Radigan say on Jimmy Dore, it's like, out of options. You know what I'm saying? They're fucking out of options right now if they don't get some money and resources into the people's hands. But are they doing it so they can pull the wool over your eyes? Oh, the state is giving us money. They're helping us out. They're actually using their tax laws to do this. Meanwhile, they're going in and they're taking away our freedoms. Because here's the thing. Most people are oblivious, Steve, to the way there our information and our data is taken from us and sold. All our information, Cambridge Analytica. Let's get what Steve likes. All right, Steve's doing this. We're going to throw husky puppies at him to distract him from his thing because we have that digital imprint. But, the fact is, when you think about that they know whatever they can to tick you or to move you, that's scary. They know a part of your thought process and your DNA, and they can use it against you. So are they taking away more of our freedoms, or are we really sweating out a virus and the state's just trying to help us? I don't know.
So we know from history that once our government adopts emergency powers, they are highly less likely to go off the books post-crisis. The Patriot Act is a perfect example of that. It's still getting reauthorized to this day.
I know.
Again, the article's been circulating. It's out of Politico. The Department of Justice is seeking emergency powers for indefinite detention of private citizens during the coronavirus crisis. So that, to me, is problem, reaction, solution. The problem is we have a virus that may or may not be man-made, but is really, really getting hard to argue that it's not. That is really
for us. The general public still thinks that this has come from China.
I'm going to tell you something, man. And this may come as a shock to you and to some of the audience, but I am an active participant in the conspiracy community. I got a lot of friends. That do really good work, and I'm going to shout out one of them right now. Lindsay Sharman has a show called Rogue Ways. And I believe Mr. Sammy Tripoli is going to be on it this next week. But she has interviewed some of the best authors and thinkers that are going way outside of the box. And what I'm seeing from them isn't relaying, just wild ass theories. What I'm seeing from them is they're all talking about, look, man, my friends who never bought into any of this shit in the last month are starting to go, you know what, this doesn't add up. What we're being told versus what we're all seeing with our own two eyes, it isn't adding up. And if it's a virus with, a 99.7% heal rate so far that could go to, 0.6% dead to 0.1, 0.2% or 2% dead, which is tragic. If it's that, it's safer than getting in a car. So why am I being forced to stay at home? Why am I, but I can still go out and vote? Why are there sheriffs setting up roadblocks, but at the same time, airports are still open? Why are people still fucking working at a fast food restaurant for takeout when we're not supposed to, even be handling food for our neighbor? And they're starting to come around to it. Susie Dawson has been filling in for us on the Free Assange Vigil as a guest host the last couple of weeks. And she's filling in for? Christy. She had a lot of stuff going on. She had to step away. Yeah, deal with her real life, So Susie's been gracious enough to come in, and she is the farthest from a conspiracy theorist. Like, if I don't have evidence to back up what I'm saying, I'm not going to say it. I refuse to speculate, and I will make fun of you, Steve, when you speculate, and she's like, look, this is checking off every box on the conspiracy theory bingo card ever. Like, you've got it going multiple directions, and I'm not going to say whether or not this is what it is, but when it all goes one way, it gets much more difficult to convince yourself that this is random chance or that this is unintentional consequences, or that it's, nothing short of a global shift to totalitarian control via coronavirus.
Yeah.
It looked like we were getting ready to go to war with China, that was ramping up. We've had a 10-year proxy war with them in Africa. China was pushing One Belt, One Road super, super heavy. They've been making inroads across the planet while the American dollar is declining. if you
You know
listen
what
to
else they
Trump,
were doing?
go ahead.
They were also taking their citizens and taking them out of poverty. You know what I'm saying? While we're going the other way. So it was looking like they were getting the support of their people for just in case an invasion came, while we were going the opposite way. And at the whole time, not invading anybody, like we were invading everybody and bleeding our finances. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And China, and people bring this up a lot, you know, the Uyghur Muslims that they've been going after, and India's been doing the
Uyghurs.
same thing. This is the Wahhabis, who are
Yeah.
U.S.
The
allies.
Wahhabis Caliphate in Xinjiang from the western part of China. And what happens is that a lot of, and then this is once again, this is full circle. You know, the Chinese they've handled it with an iron fist, the Wahhabis that are there. And I'm not saying that there's going to be some Uyghurs that are very innocent that are not going to be pulled into this, because they are. But for the most part, they're trying to weed out what's happens at the end of the day is Saudi Arabia funding Wahhabism over there. Well, where does Saudi Arabia get their money and their weapons from? Us. So we're actually feeding this faction within Western China, where we know for a fact a lot of this Wahhabist caliphates, they've gone to Syria to go fight. So we understand what's going on there, and Joe Biden is using it as a tool to look at, like, to point out, like, they're being xenophobic and attacking Muslims. No, they're trying to weed out the shit that you're funding, pal. Sorry.
Yep. I talk to John Kiriakou like through email about once a week, and I've asked him about this, and John is still like, he's hesitant to call out the CIA and the U.S. government on certain things. And this is one of those things where he's largely shied away from even discussing. But he's told me, you know, Steve, it's one of the easiest ways for us to be successful in a proxy war is to pit religious groups against each other. Yeah. And in the case of the Chinese Communist Party, the religion is the party. The religion is the state. And you've got Wahhabist Muslims who, like you just said, indirectly funded by the U.S. through Saudi Arabia, pitted against an enemy that we have been trying to simultaneously build up and destroy. China accounts for an enormous percentage of our economy. But if we can, I guess, to put it in the parlance of Hillary Clinton, bring them to heel, then not only do we stop One Belt, One Road, we stop the end of the American empire.
Yeah. Well, they want regime change, right? That's what the elites want. They want Xi Jinping out of there. They want Putin out of there, because Xi Jinping and Putin have done so much for their citizens, and they don't want that. You know what I'm saying? They're becoming strong leaders of sorts, and if we can get them out of there, then you know, because we're geopolitically opposed to them, then that's going to work. So funding Wahhabism over there, you know, that's what we'll do. I mean, it's terrible the way they kind of they pit people with these leaders using xenophobic weapons. Like, you know, the whole thing is like, okay, now you can't, the Chinese, they're being bad to the Uyghurs. So if you're pro-Chinese, I get that all the time. People are like, Pasta, are you still pro-Chinese? I'm like, I'm not pro-Chinese. I just don't think they're the fucking boogeyman like everybody says they're the boogeyman. And they've been moving people out of poverty. The same thing they did with Tulsi Gabbard. They all of a sudden demonized, you know, Hindu fascism and Modi and whatnot. Another guy, legally elected, you know, got elected, where their elections are way better than our fucking elections, first of all. You know what I'm saying? Let's get our own shit straight. And secondly, you can demonize him and then call everybody a Hindu fascist. So you pit these people against them, you demonize their leaders, then you just throw proxy wars at them. I mean, I don't know. I bet you probably didn't watch these shitty ass debates, but the last one with Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden, the way they frame these fucking questions, it's like this Cold War rhetoric that you have to be anti-Russia, you have to be anti-China, you know, and they're actually the left, the liberals promoting a Cold War rhetoric. It's Disgusting.
You're absolutely right, and you're right in that I didn't watch the last debate.
Yeah, I knew.
I watched a couple of them.
I didn't see Steve Poikin in with a bunch of popcorn and sodas and Raisinets going, gotta watch these debates. It's bad enough we had to cover them.
I was gonna say I can understand like you guys putting yourself through that because again, hands down the best election coverage out of any media outlet that exists, Convo Couch. That you guys just fucking killed it over and over and over and over and over. As a viewer, or someone who's whose show isn't the horse race. I was like, yo, this is we're in the middle of a global pandemic. They already changed the rules 3 times before this debate. We don't even know if we're going to have scheduled primaries, let alone a scheduled election. If you're just sitting home watching this and it's not your job, that's gotta be the equivalent of like fisting yourself with a sandpaper condom. Like it's just bad. And I actually,
I didn't know there was such thing as a sandpaper condom. And I think you guys, if you're going to use a sandpaper condom, put it on the right way. You put it on the inside out, you're going to be really fucked. It's like a cheese grater.
Man. And I actually did live tweet one debate, but it was because there were actual, there was a representative field of candidates on there. I knew it was going to be good for like honing my joke writing skills in real time. And I got a chance to kick around CIA Pete again. This was right after I had been smeared by the Daily Beast and Tim Pool for calling CIA Pete. So it was, still relevant to what I was doing. But man, I give you guys a lot of credit for putting yourself through that to get real information out to people. Like that's a necessary function to me. There are a lot of people in independent media whose shows are de facto campaign commercials. And that's not what the Convo Couch does. So it's why I give you guys, more credit than even my friends that are content creators that have shows that do horse race shows, because they're cheerleading. And at the end of the day, if they're not telling their viewers it's a rigged process, we have fraudulent elections, only through direct action by regular fucking people have we ever moved the needle in the first place, then I feel like they're in it not necessarily to be disingenuous, but as a source of revenue first and a source of information or education second.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to tip my hat off to you guys too over there for Action for Assange and Slow Day News and all those other guys, Christy, Tay, Andrew, I want to say Dak, Jason Burmis. I know they're kind of like, and Cindy Dawson jumping in there and stuff. Because just like us, we don't deal with the sexy topics all the time. You know what I'm saying? Election integrity is not a sexy topic for a lot of people. They don't even want to think about, civil liberties and what's going on online, and they don't understand. So the things we talk about, they're not the red meat. When we do talk electoral politics and there's mud being thrown, a lot of people love that stuff and they jump on in there. But the majority of our work is what? Election integrity. And a lot of people are just like, and like Assange, they're like, they can't grasp how important is in front of them. It's just in the background. So, I mean, thank you so much. And thank you to you guys for doing what you're doing. But yeah, it can be bothersome sometimes because the main topics we're working on, they're not the red meat. They're not sexy. But we understand what they are, and that's the thing. We're true to what we believe are the biggest problems, what we believe are the biggest issues, like you guys do too as well. And all we can do is keep going forward with that, regardless of anything. The interesting thing has been like, okay, you get suppressed by YouTube. You get the knob turned off. What they do to you is disgusting. Especially, we haven't got our money yet this month, but to see how we've made almost 3 times as much as when we were just getting highly suppressed last month. And they do this shit all the time. It's like they go up and down, up and down, up and down. They just posted something up on YouTube the other day that said, hey, listen, due to the coronavirus, we don't have a lot of humans working, and we can't furthermore look at your content. So even though some of your content might be okay with the guidelines, it still might be taken down. Well, there's that censorship you talked about again, Mr. Poikinen. They're coming in through the back door. So we've been screaming First Amendment rights. We've been screaming Julian Assange. We've been screaming close open source. We're trying to open up that world to people. Say, hey, motherfuckers, look inside. Look inside. This is important. They got the keys to the kingdom. They're controlling it. They're fucking putting a carrot in front of your face. They're playing off your emotions. We need to get a hold of this. Look at this stuff. It's important why we recognize what Julian Assange is going through. It's important to recognize what he did and what they're jailing him for. It's important to understand that you think you got one person, one vote, and you don't, because they're changing it from the inside. So all we can do is keep pushing fucking forward, and hopefully we get that message out there. But it's like swimming upstream sometime against the current.
So real quick, you were roommates with Ron Picone. You know him much better than I do, but I still consider Ron a friend. He's been on the show a lot of times. He came up here to Boulder Creek to do a house party, and we did it at the studio where I would normally be shooting the show, but the guy who owns it is immune compromised. I don't want to, I got 3 kids. They're little fucking germ factories. I don't want to go into his house and whatever. But Ron, big Bad Religion fan. One of the things that has helped me keep my head is just basically going through everything that Bad Religion has ever put out and listening to it. And Against the Grain, fantastic song. That's what we do. And the suppression, the censorship, the withholding funds, the note from YouTube, I'll read it right now. Due to COVID-19, we will conduct fewer human reviews to protect the health of our extended workforce. Unfortunately, as a result, we may remove content that does not violate our community guidelines.
There it is.
They're telling you in advance you're going to get fucked with, and you're going to get fucked with hard. That's what we do. We go against the grain. We do, so we swim upstream, and it's a necessary part of the human existence, I believe, to have people that exist outside of the narrative who aren't fucking afraid of having a video taken down, aren't afraid of putting Julian Assange's name in the title of their video, let alone having an organization called Action for Assange begging to be censored by the name of your channel alone. It's important to have that, because otherwise all you get is this fake WWE style fight between red team, blue team, where you genuinely believe that Joe Biden is hands down better than Donald Trump, or that Donald Trump is hands down better than Joe Biden, when they share 90 to 95% of an ideology, and there's that 5% that's some shit about social justice or abortion. There are taxes that come into play.
That's scary too, because the Republican Party sort of got crushed of sorts, right? Like Donald Trump kind of went in there and did his thing. They weren't able to stop him. That didn't happen on the left-hand side. I think that's what Bernie Sanders and his whole crew were thinking is, hey, we're gonna mimic what Donald Trump did and we're gonna be the left version of Donald Trump. And that's why he went and took that game to where it was. And he got stifled. He got stomped. But at the end of the day, it's like the red team, it's almost like people are plugged into the Matrix. They said they're just showing this thing, and they really think that Joe Biden and Trump are so much more different and whatnot. And I always told people that, I'm like, listen, Trump and Nancy Pelosi got a lot more in common than we do and Donald Trump. We do and Nancy Pelosi. Get that shit through your head. But those are the times we're facing. That's what we're dealing with, and we're going to continue to deal with it. And we just got to keep doing what we're doing. But it's scary times. But that's what I'm saying. Like, you got to get over to Rockfin, ROKFIN. You got to get over there because those are areas where they're not going to suppress our voice, and they're going to rage against the machine. But how long until they get into these cryptocurrencies and they kind of, because once again, here's something, we just took out, when you talk about the cryptocurrency thing, a lot of whales who kind of like affect the market, the regular market, they can also affect cryptocurrencies because they got their hands in everything, so they can do certain things. So it's scary times to see what's going to happen. But all we can do is just keep telling our truth, keep putting it forward.
I agree, man. I don't know how much time you have today. We've been going about an hour. You just let me know when you need to bounce.
Can I go refresh my coffee real quick?
Oh yeah, sure.
So you talk. Give me 2 minutes.
Absolutely. In the meantime, if anyone in the chat has any questions, go ahead and throw them in. Like I said, I just before we went on, we had like 2 minutes before we went on. And I got a call from Sam Tripoli. You're going to be able to view Slow News Day content on brokensimulation.com starting, I think, today. If you're a Patreon member, I'm actually going to start paying attention to my fucking Patreon now. And I'll be working with Sam on Patreon to do a 20 to 30 minute news of the day kind of chat style thing, starting either today or tomorrow. Whitney Webb is in the middle of a new report. She announced it this morning. As this stay-at-home order becomes enforced, as travel permits become issued, as it becomes harder and harder for people to get out of their house, I'm going to have no excuse but to put out a fuck ton more content. So Whitney Webb is at the top of that list. I've been trying to coordinate with her for like 3 fucking months now to get her back on the show. And we just couldn't make it align. So I would look for a show with her coming up sooner than later. Is it a bad time to hit the lotto when you're spending the money? Where are you spending the money? Yeah, it's probably a bad time to hit the lotto. I don't, the show's already demonetized. If you've got cash or if you've got barter, I would start gambling. How are me and my family preparing for this? So look, man, I don't know if your parents were like activists or hippies or anything like that, but a child's natural instinct is to rebel against their parents. I'm pretty fortunate that my kids have kind of at least got past that in terms of this particular situation. Like it's nothing short of Lord of the fucking Flies when, they're all together because they're cooped up in a house. They can't go hang out with their friends. I got a 14-year-old who's in 2 fucking bands right now, and he can't go hang out with his bandmates. They got to fucking practice over video conferencing. So they're going a little bit nuts, but before we were in this house, we were off grid for 4 years. Before that, we were in a shared living situation with about 5 more people. They're used to a different kind of lifestyle to begin with, so we're a little bit better off.
They
said the price of weed is skyrocketing.
Who said that?
Oh yeah, while we're at that, while we're talking about that real quick.
You got a sale going on?
No. This is a call to action, Pasta. That's what this is. Right now I'm going to issue a call to action. If you are someone who cultivates psychedelics, or you are someone who forages for psychedelics, and you have a lot. We've got more proof than we genuinely need that small amounts of psychedelics help you with post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, get you, just an all-encompassing, larger sense of humanity and community. They're going to take a lot of shit away from you during this pandemic. Don't let them take away your sense of community. And if you've got psychedelics, share them with your friends. Share them with your loved ones as long as their brains are fully developed. Don't give your fucking 14-year-old fucking new stoner guitar playing stepson psychedelics. Don't do that. I'm not going to. Help people out in this situation. If the price of weed is skyrocketing, that's a goddamn shame. It literally grows on trees here.
Yeah. Can I say hi to some people in the chat, because we have a lot of the same people? And, yeah, I just want to say hi to Tony Watches Closely. Thank you so much for everything that you always join on in. And we love you, Karen M. Cannabis Sativa. I saw Keen James out there too as well. Guys, thank you so much. We see you on our chats over on the Convo Couch, and we surely appreciate it. Anthony Reyes. Did I say his name probably twice? And I see some new people there that I haven't seen before. Maduri. And I saw somebody else, Momman or something over there down there. Mr. K. I think Mr. K kind of joins in every once in a while. Abort You. Celeste, good to see you as well. Guys, thank you so much. It's always great to see you on multiple chats, on multiple channels. And thank you so much for supporting Steve Poikonen as well. Kimber Maddox, how you doing?
Kimber, the mean panda. Kimber kicks ass. She was with us in DC. I don't know if I've said this on a live stream or not, but going to DC made us fully aware of just how vital all of the behind the scenes people with Action for Assange are. We couldn't fucking exist without Mean Panda or without Sleepy Josh. When we tried, we were fucking just way worse off prior to them coming on board. So big thanks to those guys. Though? Sleepy Josh is on the.
Isn't that great the way your fan base, your people who follow you, your fellow truth tellers who are there with you that can help you and put you in a position to go do those things? I mean, our GoFundMe has obviously slowed down with the pandemic, but man, I mean, they reached out and really helped us out, and we were able to go to New Hampshire. Fiorella went to Iowa, she went to Nevada, so and I stayed behind and I live streamed, and we got to get that kind of like little small chop shop, MSNBC, CNN, Fox, whatever you want to do, going live on boots on the ground and shit, and be able to do that. It's awesome. I mean, it was it was like a fucking dream come true, because, I'm that kid who has some college, a little college. I never saw myself as a journalist and a commentator. I was a training coordinator in the restaurant business. I would go and open up restaurants and train everybody in the front of the house, the waiters, the bartenders, the managers, and I would talk to a lot of people, and I would always do I was like a cheerleader of sorts. So a friend of mine just like, hey, man, why don't you go do this? And being able to do this, and you people watching the show, watching our show, putting us in a position to do that. It's, it's sad stuff we're talking about. It's scary stuff. It's really fucked up. But it's also a dream come true to be able to be a representative, to be your voice, and to be your word out there, ladies and gentlemen. I can't thank you enough for that. Go to Yo Pasta. Thank you.
Yeah, 100%, man. The people who support Action for Assange, who helped send us to DC, who helped send Taylor to fucking London, for Christ's sake. Like the amount of digging deep that some people did to make that happen, that everybody did to make that happen, is just, you're right, dude. It is. It's a dream come true, because it was a fucking pipe dream for me to be able to afford to fly out to DC and not miss work for a week, just to try everything that we could think of to educate people on Julian Assange's situation, and to talk about, a post-partisan reality, to have a conversation with people that wasn't centered around manufactured confusion or fucking the bullshit distractions that intentionally divide us because we're ruled by satanic pedophiles. Uh,
What's going on with that situation, right? Have you heard of that? Let's talk. Wait, I got the fucking conspiracy theorist in front of me over here, my man. I heard that news to the grapevine. Everybody's talking about the Saudis rounding up people and fucking locking them up. That the same thing's supposed to happen over here, Mr. Poikin, and that the reason why we have the coronavirus thing is that marshals are supposed to start kicking down doors, says the QAnon people, and that Tom Hanks is really being detained because he was on a list. Can you give me some insight to that, buddy?
Yeah, I can. If you're one of those people who believes the QAnon narrative, you are following what friend of the show Elizabeth Voss called hope porn. You're succumbing.
Wow.
You're succumbing to hope porn. The idea that Donald Trump is a white hat who is taking on the deep state from the inside with help of military fucking leaders to arrest pedophiles is garbage, and you need to get that out of your head.
You just broke hearts out there, man.
I get people mad at me every time that I say this, but I feel like it's worth repeating at least once a month. Like I said, I have a lot of friends in the conspiracy community. I'm as involved with those discussions as I can take. And from the moment that Q broke, I was like, well, this isn't an NSA psyop. How can you? What Q does is it deactivates people who were traditionally a part of the conservative activism community, and people who came out of Jason Burmis's world, in the InfoWars world, who were door-stopping politicians, who were door-stopping CEOs, who they had 10,000 people show up to the Bilderberg Group meeting, and all of that went away with Q. It all went away. It's people who are now deactivated and waiting for the other shoe to drop and being told to trust the plan. And all that does is string people along. Q will let out information that has been publicly known for up to a decade. It's already public knowledge. But because people in the Q community are new to, researching, new to this whole type of information sphere, they believe it's the first time that they're seeing it, and they believe that Q is the only person talking about it, or the only group talking about it, because they've bubbled themselves so thoroughly that they're not going to go look to see if you can even corroborate it.
Yeah. Well, they're forming their own fucking narrative for this election coming up now, too, as well. They're using this coronavirus thing, the Oprah Winfrey bullshit, and it's like, oh yeah, they're gonna round up all these people. That at one point when it came to the Epstein story, and I covered a lot of the Epstein story because I lived in South Florida, and I had friends, and we knew young ladies who just disappeared. We knew what was going on of sorts. We through the grapevine, so I covered that story. But it seems like they're creating their own narrative right now for this time now as well. It's like, oh, now the coronavirus is just a way of them rounding people up, and they're going to start arresting people, and this is what's going on. They're doing it in Saudi Arabia. Now they're going to do it here. It's like, I was kind of like, even, I don't want to say supportive, but I never thought that Donald Trump was part of that whole Epstein kind of crew. I think he wanted to hang out with those guys, but they kind of rejected him. He was a nerd, whatever. But for the most part, I didn't believe he was involved with the Epstein stuff compared to like the Clintons and everything they went through and their clan. However, seeing the way they've dragged their feet, everything that's happened, Barr, his father, his connections to the Epsteins, it's just, I've gone away and I've said plain and simple that Donald Trump has not handled this the way he should have. The DOJ has not handled this. They're a bunch of bullshits. And if you believe that QAnon stuff now moving forward, I feel bad for you because nothing happened the way you said it would fucking happen. So why are you believing another fairy tale when the first fucking fairy tale didn't come true?
And it reinforces the regime change war narrative. It's now taking out Iran is preferred to stopping the military industrial complex. Now going after China is preferred to isolationism and even deregulation. among those people's thought process. It's more war, more more consolidated power to a power base that is not the people who are posting and reading on the cue boards. It's not them who are going to reap the rewards of the things that they advocate. And it's I think with this pandemic, even though they're trying to spin it the way that they're spinning it, Tom Hanks is really arrested. He's not even in Australia. He's in Gitmo or some shit like that.
Yeah. All that crap.
With John McCain, by the way. He's in Gitmo with John McCain's corpse because John McCain didn't really have cancer. He was, taken on a fucking black flight to Cuba. That was Q.
Oh, Q.
John McCain. That was a Q narrative that John McCain didn't die of cancer, that he was taken to Gitmo and executed for treason.
Who was? McCain.
Yeah.
Yeah. I heard that one before too.
Yeah, I mean, hope porn. A lot of props to Elizabeth Voss for, tossing that phrase out on Slow News Day.
That's a great thing, and it's nothing more than hope porn, So,
and it's the same thing.
What? Hey,
it's the same thing as
I was going to say. You know who really knows some shit about those people though too? Who's never really talked about is Tulsi, right? If you track about like when she was with Hirono back in the days, George Webb talked about it and stuff. That person who wrote that letter to her was Michael Kives. That guy is no fucking, you know what I'm saying? He's got direct ties. And Michael Kives used to go out with Alyssa Milano. And I went to Alyssa Milano's wedding, which, by the way, that's a really big disappointment right now, Melissa Milano.
You went to Alyssa Milano's wedding?
Her brother was...
Please tell that story. I have to get up for a second. I'm listening, but please tell that story.
What's that? Alyssa Milano? I mean, when I moved out here in 1999, the late 99, I knew one person, and that person was actually Alyssa Milano's mom's godson. His name is Brandon Terciano. And I met them, and Corey Milano became one of my closest friends. Corey is Alyssa's younger brother, and we just hung out in an apartment complex for years, back in the day. And so I mean, I was friends and kind of like that Italian cousin kind of family thing, and I ended up going to her wedding, was friends with the family. And obviously, since I've gone this route, it's been a while, but we don't see each other anymore, and we're on different sides of the spectrum. But that's the thing. It's like her brother still was, I still consider him one to be my close friends. We don't hang out a lot. His name is Corey. I love the kid. And so, I went to that wedding. I was close with that family. It's been a while. Like I said, we've gone our own separate ways. Not that we had any falling out. We just did our own things. That's the way it was. It wasn't like they were tight, buddy. We were just good acquaintances. And I called her my cousin at one point. Like, oh, she's my cousin, because Corey was like my brother, he's like one of her younger brother. So yeah, I mean, but it's kind of crazy to see where she's gone with the whole Joe Biden thing, and but that's the thing, at what point do we say this is conspiracy, and what point do we say this is real? Because there's no doubt in my mind that Hollywood is an extension of the intelligence community, the deep state, whatnot, the way they portray things, the way the messages they put out there. I loved Jeff Krasinski until he was in that new fucking show with the Jack Ryan, where it's now Venezuela is working with Russia to, put a bomb in the United States. And they do this shit all the time, and portray us as being the heroes, United States government. So, I mean, it's no doubt that now Alyssa's married to David Boulari, who's a CAA, agent, her agent. And now she has a career and she has a lot more things that she's in, where it was slowly slipping away, because Hollywood's never really been about talent. It's been about messaging, connections, and, what you can do for me. Look at the people who are never on those lists that we heard about, supposedly, I don't know, the QAnon people or whoever would say, they would move you into pedophilia at a young age, and then they would groom you into being a messenger for them. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know what is real, what is fake, where we're at and whatnot, but I know the messaging and the people, they sure do step in line with a lot of those Epstein people and a lot of the Clintons and a lot of their messaging. So, you don't have to believe Q, but at what point, what is real, what is fake, and what is conspiracy theory, and what is not? It's the waters are muddied. So I don't know what to believe.
And then we've got I don't want to forget, like it's not necessarily conspiracy theory, like it's more like conspiracy realism, because the shit that we've been talking about for decades now, um in terms of the push for a one world government, the push for complete totalitarian rule of not just the United States but Western European countries, the Stalinization really of the United States, where what we have is economic fascism and
Yep.
totalitarian, almost communism, or state capitalism, uh, where the beneficiaries of the means of production, it's hard to tell what's going to the government and what's going to the corporation because there's no distinction anymore. Um, all of that stuff is playing out in front of our eyes, and the conspiracy theories are the Russians hacked our freedom. The conspiracy theories are bat soup caused a global pandemic. Um, you're right. It's hard to tell what's real and what's fake, but it's easy to tell, at least to me, what's right and what's wrong. And a government seeking indefinite detention powers of private citizens is wrong. The Earn It Act, which will kill end-to-end encryption for private citizens, is wrong. And this is something that not a lot of people are talking about, is the Earn It Act.
I don't know about it.
I will. I'll send it over to you. And I'll do it in that Twitter DM right now. The Earn It Act is, let's see, the final text of the bill circulated. The DOJ held a press conference about its own effort to curb online child predation. That's how it's being sold. We need to kill end-to-end encryption for all private citizens for the children. That was YouTube's original excuse for trying to basically trying to kill independent media, was for the children. It's essentially what gun control laws always boil down to, is it's about the children.
Yeah.
And it's getting to the point to where if someone in a suit comes out and says, I'm here to protect the children, like, your immediate involuntary reaction should be bullshit.
I don't know. It's what do you want to? It's the thing is, like, you're going to object to everything. I remember my mom saying, "Ma, the Patriot Act, what they're doing. Well, we have to do what we got to do to protect this country over here. So we, and I remember the Rick and Morty. Remember, like, when he's trapped inside the Shoney's, when they're in his brain. You watch Rick and Morty?
I've
so they're
seen
inside his brain, right? And
yeah.
They're like, where's it at? Is it between your favorite sports blooper and what happened in 9/11? Like, where did you create the portal gun? And they show him talking, 9/11, and he's screaming on the phone. He's like, they're going to use this to take away our freedoms. Well, he ain't lying, man. Those are all Saudi insiders, a government we fund, a government close to us that flew those fucking planes into those buildings. And yet they use that inside job, supposedly, if it was or if it was not, to fucking take away our freedoms, to look at us, to spy on us more, to get a grip of what the people are doing out there, the free speakers. Because it's America, the land of the free, the home of the brave. You can do shit here you can't do in China. Really? Because Edward Snowden revealed after 9/11, you used your powers to spy on the American people, not fucking China and Russia. We're their enemy, and that's what people have to understand more than anything, is they don't want us getting a hold of our society and us being in control of our own ways. They want to fucking control us, and that's what it's about. And that's where they're coming. So it is hard to.
This is exactly why I was for the first time in my life, I was a delegate at a state party convention.
Holy shit! When was this?
Right before we went to DC, I was able to do it online. But Adam Kokesh, who was running for the Libertarian nomination, his platform was decriminalize drugs, release political prisoners, and dissolve the federal government within 72 hours. And I'm like, I can get behind that, you know? I can. I would have stood up for Ian Schlackman as a Green Party nominee. Because
what about Soraya Foss?
Because I don't know enough about him. I will say this, man. Joe Kishore from the Socialist Equality Party, I've had the opportunity to talk to a couple of times. He's come on the Free Assange Vigil, and I like where he's coming from. I do. I've never gone out of my way to join a political party. In fact, I'll probably end up doing what I've done since 2008 this year, which is vote for and or write in Cynthia McKinney, because honestly, until I see another presidential candidate that is at the level that Cynthia McKinney's at, I'm still going to write her in.
I'm going to vote Libertarian, I think, in California.
You what?
I think I'm going to vote Libertarian in California, because whoever comes out of that they're going to be rooted in certain ideologies, and one of those is going to be protecting our civil liberties, free elections, decriminalizing marijuana, and ending regime change wars. Those four things, and that's something that I really learned, and I think a lot of people have to understand is that, and when I go out there and when I hit out there now, it's like, where do we go from here? All right, so now we got to fight for election integrity in my mind, right? To me and you, and I think we'll probably say this, that election integrity and protection of our civil liberties are the most important things. We can't have anything else until we get that in place. In other words, if we control and we have transparency, the way our discourse is policed or not policed online is important. Yeah, we don't want child porn getting out there and all that other bullshit, but once again, they're using it to take away our freedoms, to speak against the machine, to give people, to have people think for themselves. What you guys are doing right now, what Andrew said the other night, is probably one of the most dangerous things you can say in the eyes of the elites. Decentralize. Think for yourselves. Think what they're doing. Be about a sense of community, right? Okay? That's dangerous to them.
Oh, yeah.
So when you talk about the Libertarian Party, they want those things first. Now, they suck on a Green New Deal. They don't give a shit how much oil spills in our water. They believe that the plight of the libertarian, right? They believe that the economy is going to work itself out, right? That the free market's going to fix everything. Meanwhile, money is just something that's made the fuck up, right? There's no gold back in our money. It's just made up and say, hey, believe this $20 worth is worth $20 because I'm telling you, right? That kind of fucking mentality. And the fact is that, they want to decriminalize criminal justice, get rid of all those fucking people sitting in a cell for using drugs or whatever they want to call it, self-medicating. They want to do those things. So you cannot put the cart before the horse. And even though the libertarians aren't going to agree on the Green New Deal, Medicare for all, which once again, it's like when people ask me about it, it's like, yeah, I want those things, but we need to get these other things taken care of first. The libertarians are there. So I have no problem giving them a couple extra bucks, because a lot of people have to realize, an ex-Sanders supporter I am that went to Tulsi. Why? Because just like those other things, I feel they're more important. They're not being addressed. The social justice warriors don't even look at it. They don't even look at election integrity. They don't even look at, what I'm saying? They just want racial justice. They
shut you down when you start to talk about election integrity. They shut you down when you start to talk about the national security state. They shut you down like you did something wrong for bringing up Julian Assange.
Yeah.
And it's almost a form of like cultural conditioning. I have this theory that among the secular left and the secular center, political identity has replaced religion. And we have elevated pet politicians to sainthood or the godhood or, at least demigod status. Before I go into this rant, I want to tell the audience and tell you, if you ever really want to fuck with a libertarian, you take an Adam Smith quote and you slap it on top of a picture of AOC.
Oh.
And you will watch libertarians shed their entire ideology 100% just by doing that one hilarious thing. And this is more prevalent, I believe, in Sanders supporters, maybe because there's just more of them, so I experience it more from that side. But the holding of political identity and the policies is dictated by St. Bernard Jesus Sanders as tenets of faith and not a tangible, rooted in reality solution to what our real problems are. Because you're right, if we don't have election integrity, there's no way in hell we're getting that platform adopted. There's no way in hell we're getting this legislation passed. There's no way in hell we're moving into a more community-based or worker-based mindset in terms of how we govern. And you can do that in a decentralized fashion. You don't have to have a giant central government existing as a nanny state in order to have a thriving community. But if you approach it as a zealot or as a fundamentalist, then you automatically shut down any conversation that you deem to be critical of your pet politician. And I think it's one of the more nefarious things that manufactured confusion has done to people in terms of creating divisions within divisions within divisions. And we're so, for a guy who preaches, decentralization, I'm increasingly upset at the tribalism that we witnessed as a society.
It's getting worse. It's getting worse. I mean, it's not getting any better. It's getting worse. But, that's because, and more than anything, the elites, they're in charge of the discourse that goes out there. And that's the thing that people don't understand. It's like, okay, they're suppressing our voice. They're putting forth their message, their ideology, and their ideology is pin everybody against each other so we continue to fight about our differences, like George Carlin says, and they run off with all the resources. Simple tactic, happens to work. Well, it's still working. And it works even better nowadays because why? They got the system so broken that everybody's got to work 2-3 jobs just to keep afloat. Education sucks right now. It's never going to be fucking fixed, is what George Carlin said, and he ain't lying. They don't want it fixed because they don't want you figuring this shit out. And it's not just education from your ABCs and your 1, 2, 3s. It's looking at shows like this to say, oh, this is a different way of thinking. Maybe I shouldn't just go along with the norm from the pudding that they're feeding us. I always say the zombie pudding. It's like you're just a zombie. It's like, oh, you're in this cage, you're working. Well, how do you get out of that box? How do you think for yourself? And that's also another thing is if you look at the arts in school, the arts are taken away. Why? Because arts promote abstract thinking using a different part of your fucking brain, right? So it is this mass suppression going against what we're trying to say, what we're trying to do, and everything you talk about from the decentralization, the thinking for yourself, the community. That's their number one fear is that we all get together, Bacon Revolution style, and we all put aside our differences and go, hey, these are the fuckers that are fucking with us. Let's get them, and then we can go into dealing with all the social justice stuff and whatnot and everything. Because once we do this together, we're all blood. Our blood's all red on the inside. We'll discover that more when we come together and stop letting these people pit us against each other.
You're absolutely right. I have a ton of stuff that I need to get to today. So I think I'm gonna wrap it up here. Pasta, I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your Sunday, come on the show here. You are just one of my favorite shows now. The Convo Couch. I don't get to watch a lot of content. I don't. Or at least up until being locked down in my own house. Yeah. And your show, what you and Fee have been doing in terms of bringing a realistic picture of the primary process is, I think, helping break people of their conditioning. So if you're watching right now and you're not already following the Convo Couch, please go do that. Subscribe to the YouTube, get on the Rockfin, and talk about these guys when you talk about your content creators. Make sure that the Convo Couch comes out of your mouth when you're bringing up people who are doing good work. Will you please let people know where they can find you and maybe what you guys are up to during this chaos?
Yeah. Well, it's kind of funny because, and thank you so much, Steve. Kudos and likewise to you guys over there too as well. You know, I mean, this is where it's at. This is where the when you want to talk about election integrity, you want to talk about electoral processes and what's really going on. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to show people, pull the curtain back, and let them see. And what you guys are doing with Assange and freedom of speech and just protecting your civil liberties. Let me just say that to those people out there. Like, I'm going to echo it. You like Medicare for all. You want a Green New Deal. You want all these things that sound so pretty. Well, we can't have those things until we get these things here straightened out. Our freedom of speech is so important, and what these guys are talking about, and the jailing and the treatment of Julian Assange, it's gotta hit some bells and alarms and lights in your head to say, hey man, we gotta rage against this, because if they suppress these voices, we're just underneath their control. If you have a community living like we're talking about, and say there's 30 guys in one community sitting around a fire, you're gonna raise your hands and you're gonna vote on what needs to be done. Well, that vote count has got to be accurate to represent what that community wants. Well, just listen to us, ladies and gentlemen. They're suppressing what we're trying to say. They're putting the wool over our eyes. They got closed proprietary software and all their shit, and they're not giving you your voice and your choice. So watch the Convo Couch. Support us. Help us out. You can find us on our YouTube at the Convo Couch. We have a Facebook. We have a Rockfin, ROKFIN. We're part of building that platform. Action for Assange is on there too as well. We have a GoFundMe, a Patreon, all the bells and whistles, everything that you can give us. And we know it's tough times now, so if you can't give us anything, hold on to what you're doing. Just watch us. Watching us helps us out. Sharing us helps us out. And just be part of raging against the machine and getting the truth tellers out there, because that's what we want to do.
Hell yeah. That's going to do it for today's live stream. This has been Slow News Day. Before I go, I had Jeff Black on the show last week. He was circulating a petition to release all nonviolent people locked up in jail during this thing. Prisoners are fucking fifth-class citizens. They're not going to be considered during a global pandemic. This is absolutely vital that we do this, because it's a soft genocide if we ignore it. And while we're talking about that, Julian Assange is still in fucking Belmarsh prison. His health has deteriorated over the last year. We know specifically that he was having problems breathing. This is supposed to be an upper respiratory illness. There's a petition being circulated by Christine Assange, Julian's mother. You follow her on Twitter, please do that, and please go sign that petition. If I can before we split, I'll put it in the chat. If not, I'll put it in the description. We need to get Julian Assange out of Belmarsh prison by screaming as loud as we possibly can. You can find me on Twitter at Slow News Day Show. My content, I think, is going to start going on Rockman through Action for Assange. The organization will get that Bitcoin. I won't until I get my own goddamn thing, but I would prefer it to go to A4A anyway. Look for me to revitalize my fucking dormant Patreon. I'm really sorry about that.
We're there too. We're there too. We're doing so much work, and sometimes it's hard. And ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something. When you do these things, and I know what Steve is going through for Action Assange, you try to read your emails, you try to read your comments. There's everything everywhere. It's so much shit. And when Steve goes, hey, man, we don't watch a lot of content, you know why? Because what we got to do is something called research, and we got to do a lot of it. So believe you me, ladies and gentlemen, we don't ignore anybody, because I know Steve's that type of guy. It's just a lot of shit to get to. So please give us some time. Sorry to go on about your Patreon, but we got the same fucking thing. We have to put something up there.
Yeah, and it's not for, fuck, dude, I have a day job too. And I've got 3 kids, and I've got, I've got a fucking lot going on. But since we're on lockdown, look for a fuck ton more content. And again, I'm going to be on with Sam Tripoli on his Patreon, and it'll air on mine as well, either this evening or tomorrow. Sam has been nice enough to offer brokensimulation.com as another place where I can host my content. If you're not hip to brokensimulation.com, go ahead and check that out. And as always, Wednesday nights, we starting an hour earlier now, so 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central. The Free Assange Vigil series will go live once again. Krish Mohan, comedian out of DC and Maryland, will be one of our guests this week. I saw Chris for the first time when I went to go see Lee Camp stand up. He's a fucking just brilliant guy, incredibly funny, and really, really well versed on the kind of things that we're talking about. So if you're not already subscribed to that channel, Action for Assange on YouTube, Action_4 Assange on Twitter, Action for Assange on Rockfin. Guys, I love you. I want to thank everyone who's hung out in the chat today. You guys make this show. You do, and you're so fucking appreciated. Thanks, Sleepy Josh, on the ones and twos. And yeah, fuck, man. Good luck to us all.